Okay, Greta, and whenever you're ready, you take it away.
Great. Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for having us. Great to have an introduction from the president. I feel very privileged just to share the stage with her. So I'm Greta Dzieciaszek. I am class of 2005, which feels like just yesterday, although upon my advanced math skills to calculate that it was actually 15 years ago that I was at Lawrence. And I was actually a junior when Hyatt Hall was first a thing. So Hyatt Hall was built when I was a junior, part of the first class that got to live in Hyatt Hall. And so I have some fond memories of the fact that they had spill-proof furniture. And we were the first to get to use I'm not sure if it still exists, I'm assuming they've upgraded, but they had spill-proof furniture back in the day. So I wanted to share today a little bit about my career journey and how I was able to translate what I learned at Lawrence to the career that I'm in right now in corporate America. So I'll share with you a little bit about my career path, some of my secrets to success. So I'm now in leadership development and career development at CVS. And so I wanted to share some of the things that I think would be helpful for you as you think about what career you might take after Lawrence. And then lastly, I wanted to share a little bit more about the company, CVS Health, and some of the opportunities that we have and companies similar to CVS Health might have for you after you graduate. So I started off at Lawrence as a government major, and in my junior year, I took an intro to psychology class and quickly realized that that was the path that I wanted to pursue. So I also had the opportunity to take an internship in psychology. So I went to a group home in Green Bay and spent some time there. I played college soccer at Lawrence, and really, those were really the things that shaped some of my interests while I was in college. And so being the college student that I was, I knew that these were the things that I enjoyed, but I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do with my career. So I didn't have a clear plan going into my senior year of college of what my next steps would be, but I knew that I loved soccer and sports. I knew that I loved leading the team and being a captain. I knew that I loved psychology, and I knew that I loved the applied psychology. And so I remember walking down Briggs Hall, and I passed Professor Metelsky's office, and he had a pamphlet. This is back when there were like pamphlets on bulletin boards in the halls. And there was a pamphlet on the wall for a master's degree in sports psychology. And I remember thinking, I think that's the career I want to take. I like sports and I like psychology. It was as simple as that. That was going to be my career path. And so the first thing that I'll share with you is that you don't have to, at this point in your career, have a clearly articulated path for the next 20 to 40 years of your life of what you're going to want to do. You just need to know right now, be understanding who you are, what you're passionate about, and what energizes you. And that will lead you to your career. So for me, it was psychology and it was sports. And that was really all that I could articulate at that point in my career path. And I would encourage you to do the same. So take a moment to think about, when are you at your best today? When are you at your best this week or this past month? And most likely, those are the things that are going to lead to your eventual career, or to having a career that you're passionate about, that you love, and that's meaningful for you. So no clear plan at this point. Decided I was going to pursue my master's degree in sports psychology because I liked sports and I liked psychology, as simple as that. So I completed my master's degree and my doctorate in psychology right out of Lawrence, and continued on this path of really being focused on clinical psychology and sports psychology. And I was looking for my first real job after graduate school. And at that point, sports psychologists really only did two things. They were professors or they worked for the US Army. So I decided I wanted to take the more applied route and work for the US Army. So I got a job working with soldiers, training soldiers to be more resilient and mentally tough. And I remember when I was on the phone with the recruiter, And they said, we're going to determine who gets these jobs, and then we're going to send you anywhere around the United States for your role. You could be placed in Georgia, you could be in California, or you could be in New York. And there were about 10 different locations. And I hung up the phone and I thought, you know what, if I'm going to take this job, I'm going to put myself out there a little bit, and I'm going to let them know where I'd like to be, because this is my career after all. And so I called the recruiter back the next day and I said, if I have any say in it, if you pick me, I'd like to be at West Point in New York, because I knew that that was where a lot of the best of the best were training, was at the United States Military Academy at West Point. And so I ended up getting the job at West Point, and they actually only had a few that were picked to go to West Point. The rest were going to be going, I think there was about 40 of us in that group. We're going to be going to various locations. And people ask, like, how did you get West Point? And I look back and I think, a lot of it was just articulating what I wanted. And I think that because I was willing to speak up and say what I wanted, it helped me along in that moment in time and throughout my career. So the second piece of advice that I would share with you is, don't be afraid to share what you want for your career and what you're interested in. In fact, there's some research on this that shows that women, diverse people, they tend to not articulate what they want. They're more likely to say what they don't want. So I don't really like IT, I don't really like math, and they're less likely to say this is what I actually want. And so it's really important throughout your career now, as you start to think about your career, that you start to feel comfortable and confident saying what it is that you're interested in and what it is that you want for yourself, and to feel comfortable enough to make those statements to other people that you meet while networking, or that you meet through various internships and through your studies at Lawrence. Ted is going to talk later about the importance of networking, but as you have these networking conversations, that piece of the equation is going to be so important, to be able to articulate what you want, what you're interested in, rather than what you don't want. So I worked for I worked as a sports psychologist. So I still didn't know, like, what is my career path? So now I'm 6 years into my career, still not quite sure what it is that I'm doing. I know that I like sports. I know that I like psychology. And so I really enjoyed the work that I did with the military. So I got to go, on the shooting range with soldiers, helping them to learn how to fire a weapon to do it while they maintain composure. I got to help them train for different schools, like Ranger School, for example. So it was a really great career, but there wasn't a lot of upward mobility for me. And it was really important that I just continue to advance and learn and grow in my career. And so I wanted to do something different. And I think that's another really critical piece, is that you can change your mind. You can pivot in your career as many times as you want. And that's exactly what I did in that moment. I decided, this has been a great run with the military, but I think I want to do something different. So I started to look at different jobs, and as many of you are probably doing now, and I interviewed with Ted. You're going to meet Ted in a little bit. And that really set me on to the career trajectory that I'm on today. So I accepted a role with CVS Health, where I am now, in corporate America. If you would have told me 8 years ago when I was at Lawrence that I would have ended up in corporate America, I would have laughed, and certainly not in human resources, but that's where I ended up. So Ted had a job on his team looking at how do we identify who is the best of the best at CVS Health, and how can we accelerate their development? How do we help them to become great leaders within the company? And so this was exactly in line with what I love to do. I love this idea of what makes people great. How do we help people lead? What is the psychology behind what makes great performers? And I was able to do this in another setting. And so this idea of being able to pivot, but still do the thing that you're really passionate about, is so critical. And after working with Ted, and if you read the book, you'll figure out exactly how to do it. After working with Ted, I was able to articulate what I probably should have been able to articulate at Lawrence, which was my career was really all about helping people perform at their best. and about peak performance and what makes people great. And no matter what job I got along the way, that was always really the common thread. And as long as I was doing that, I was really going to enjoy any career or any job that I had. And so that was really my career aha and what set me on the corporate path that I'm on now. So I moved into corporate America. And since then, I've been able to have, I think one of the beauties of being in corporate America is the opportunity to move across the organization. So I'm at CVS Health, which has 350,000 employees and all across the United States. And so there's a number of opportunities that I can do within the organization. So it never gets, for me, I wanted to be doing something new all the time. So every few years, I've been able to find a new opportunity within the company, mostly within human resources and understanding this idea of understanding people and how to make people have meaningful careers, how to help people be better leaders at CVS Health within the company. So I spent some time in talent development is an area of HR that I was in. I was in learning. So how do we help people learn how to be good at their jobs, and how do we help people learn new skills so they could take on new jobs? And then now I'm in a HR business partner role, which is helping people looking at the whole picture of the person, understanding how our well-being, our compensation, all of the pieces of someone's job to make sure that they're satisfied and engaged in their role. So that's what my career has been all about. I did want to share with you some of the things that I think are the secrets, because it's the name of this, Secrets of Success, that I think are really critical to being successful in your career. So the first is, and I've kind of touched on this, your career is not linear. So you don't have to pick a career today and stick with it forever. Hopefully that gives you like a sigh of relief if you're a senior thinking about what you want next. We find that most people's careers are more like a spider web. They are less likely to be a ladder straight up and down, and more likely we see people moving around, using different skill sets and interests in different settings. So when you think about what's next, you're really just thinking about what's next rather than what's set for you from start to finish. In fact, when we look at the most successful people in CVS Health and across different organizations, we find that people generally say, I started off somewhere very different than where I ended up. So the most successful people usually have done a variety of things in a variety of settings. So I asked a bunch of early in career people at CVS Health who've just started their careers in the last year or two. I asked them, what do you wish you knew in college that you know now? And they said, well, it's all about interviewing and applying for jobs, Greta. So I do want to share with you a little bit about what I hear and see when it comes to interviews and applications. So part of my job has been interviewing people for internships and for early in career roles and helping to mentor those people. So some of the things that I wanted to share with you: when you're applying to a job, the first thing is you don't need to meet the full job description. So in fact, if you do meet the full job description, if you can check every single box off on a job description, you are probably overqualified for the role. And so really you're looking at like maybe 60 or 70% of the qualifications that they list. So don't feel like if you see a job description that you don't have every box that you can apply to that job. That's not necessarily true. Now, the trick to applying to jobs is actually what Ted's going to be talking about later, which is this idea of networking. Most people get jobs through the networks that they form. And Ted's going to talk to you about how do you build that network. But what I want to share with you is that you just want to really make sure that you are building that network through LinkedIn, through Viking Connect, that you are starting to have those conversations and get to know people, even if it seems like it's not exactly in line with what you're interested in. It's so critical to your career success. When I had started working at CVS Health, right after I got the job at CVS, a friend of mine who I had worked with in the Army, he reached out to me and he said, hey, I saw this job and I thought you would be a great fit for it. It was at IMG Academy in Florida. I still remember it. And he said, I want to introduce you to Angus, who is the head of IMG Sports Psychology. And I had just gotten the job at Aetna or at CVS Health. There was no way I was going to be taking this job in Florida. But I thought, you know what, this is a great opportunity for me to network with somebody in the field of sports psychology. And so I let him know that I had just accepted a role, but that I'd love to meet with him and understand more and potentially provide him some contacts. And so I met with Angus and we had a great quick chat. I think it was a 30-minute conversation that day. And he ended up, so that was it. Didn't hear from him again, and vice versa. About 6 months later, I saw that he became the president of the Sports Psychology Association. So he wasn't at the time. So he moved into, one of the leadership roles across the field of sports psychology for the United States. And then about 6 months later, he wrote a book. And as he was getting ready to write the book, he asked me to co-author a chapter. So this was a great opportunity that I would have never had I not taken this random meeting with Angus, who is the head of mental conditioning at IMG Academy, that led to me being able to author a chapter in a book on applying sports psychology to the corporate world. And so, for me, that's a great example of how you can build connections in ways that maybe it doesn't seem like, where is this really going to go? And it can come back around and help you at different points in your career. So having that network of people is so critical and so important. And that's where we see most people are able to get jobs or get their foot in the door when it comes to getting job opportunities or career advancement opportunities in your career. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about interviewing too. So that was my application tips. But when it comes to interviewing, there's one piece of advice I have for you, and that is to have 3 great stories. So that's going to sound funny, but what I want you to do is I want you to write down and get really good at telling 3 stories about yourself. So these stories should be things like a story of a time that you worked on a project with peers, a time that you led an initiative for a club. Maybe it's a story you have from being in a sport, for example. So 3 stories that really demonstrate who you are as a person. And you have to just nail these 3 stories in really being able to say, a beginning, middle, and end, the impact you had. So really get crisp on these stories. The reason that you need 3 stories is because most jobs now are going to ask behavioral interview questions, which means they're going to ask stuff like, tell me about a time when you made a decision under pressure. Tell me about a time when you were responsible for a lot of people or responsible for a large decision. So you're going to hear these same kind of questions over and over in interviews. And it's really important that you have your stories all ready to go. And those stories you can really apply in different settings pretty easily once you have the nuts and bolts of the story that you're able to articulate really, really well. So the story should really be around internships, clubs, sport, class projects. Those are really the best ones that we see are people who are able to use examples from times like that. And then you want to make sure in your story that you include what you contributed and then the results that you got. So jobs are looking for results. They're looking for you to contribute to the company. And so you have to make sure that you articulate your contribution and then what the outcome was, how you contributed to the end goal or the thing that you were trying to accomplish. And people love stories. So probably from this time that I've spoken to you so far, you may have forgotten a lot of what I said, but you probably remember how I shared that I walked down the hall, Briggs Hall, and saw the pamphlet on the wall. So that's a way stories really resonate with people and they stick in people's memory. And so to share those stories in interviews is really important as you think about standing out. So the last thing that I want to share with you today is a little bit more about the company that I work for, CVS Health. And really, I think a lot of what I'm going to say applies to a lot of other healthcare companies. So whether it's CVS Health or another healthcare company, it's a space that's that could be of interest to you that I just wanted to make sure that I shared some more information. So when you think of CVS Health, you're probably thinking of the retail store because that is what most people think of when they think of CVS Health. So there's a CVS Health, I think it's like within 2 miles of like 95% of the US population. So that is less than 10% of the revenue that CVS Health generates every year. So that's a really, really small portion, although it's what everybody knows of when they think of CVS Health. So CVS Health it's a Fortune 5 company. So it's one of the 5 largest companies in the United States, 350,000 employees, and it does a lot of things. Most things we do are outside of the retail world. So there is the retail footprint, but there's also the pharmacy and the PBM, pharmacy benefit management system. And so that's when you go to the back of the store and you get your medications. So behind all of that is an organization of people, probably like 30,000 people, who are negotiating drug prices, who are helping to distribute medications to the pharmacies. We're doing a lot of things when it comes to the medical field and prescribing. And then the other part of CVS Health, the other big part of CVS Health is a health insurance company. So in the Midwest, you're probably more familiar with United Health and Anthem, but on the East Coast, we have Aetna. And so CVS Health owns Aetna, which is a health insurance company. In addition, we have smaller companies, like 10 to 15 other small companies like Omnicare, which is a long-term care facility. So we employ, I think it's somewhere around 20,000 healthcare professionals. So even if you're interested in a career being a physician or a nurse or a mental health provider, there's actually a lot of opportunities within the corporate world to do a lot of this work. And it's a really interesting place to do the work because although as a physician in a hospital, you see clients face to face and you get to impact the person in front of you, when you work for a company like CVS Health, you get to impact really the infrastructure and the strategy behind the way the whole system works. So that's usually the appeal for a lot of people. And that was the appeal for me, was to really be able to impact how it all works together. So we're really focused on how we can help people along their healthcare journey. And so there's a lot of initiatives and parts of the company that are doing just that. And so it's a great way to have a big impact on the health and the health system across the United States. So for example, one of the big initiatives we have at CVS Health is health hubs. So it's a new thing where we basically are converting retail stores into one-stop shop for your healthcare needs. And so behind this is thousands of people who are thinking through, what does that mean? What do people need when it comes to their healthcare? We have physicians who are thinking about that. We have social workers who are thinking about what kind of behavioral health needs might they have when they come into that store. What do they really need from us to be successful in their health journey? And so there's a lot of that kind of work happening within CVS Health that makes it a really interesting, fun place, very strategic place to be a part of if you're thinking about a career in healthcare. So I think Ted will share with you the website. I'm pretty sure it's on one of your slides, Ted. But if not, it's jobs.cvshealth.com/internship. So if you go to jobs.cvs health, you'll be able to find a place for internships. So another great thing about CVS is we have a humongous internship program. So we bring in hundreds and hundreds of interns every summer. So they're paid internships that we offer across all of the different departments at CVS Health. Things like you could work in finance, you can work in human resources, you can work in general management, you can work in technology. So you can work in a variety of parts of the company just to understand if it's really of interest to you and to be involved in some of the work that I just described is happening across the company. This is the perfect time to apply for internships for next summer. If you can believe it, right now, we are interviewing, we have jobs open for internships for next summer. So this is really the critical time. If you are a junior or a sophomore, it's a good time to be involved in joining an internship. Now, because I'm in HR, I have to do a special plug for our HR internship, our human resources internship, which actually falls under Ted's organization. So HR we have our own internship and they are available right now. So right now they've just posted those roles. So you'd be able to go and apply. Although if you really want to get in, you should send me a message on Viking Connect and then apply for the job, because I'll help to make sure that you're connected to the right people. because we know connections and networks matter. So if you are interested in HR internship, a lot of the things that we do are focused on things like, so Ted's department does talent development, which is they're looking at how can we help people be better at their jobs? What skills can we give them to be better at their jobs? And they're also looking at how can we give people new skills so they can take on new jobs within the company. And then they're looking at how can we help develop leaders? So what makes a great leader at CVS Health, and how can we give people those skills to be great leaders? So we have Ted as a team of people who all are responsible for all things related to developing people across the company. We have a benefits and well-being team. So some of the things they do, for example, is, so all the employees got Apple Watches, and the Apple Watches can track our fitness, and we can get gift cards if we reach certain health goals that are tracked on our Apple Watch. So it's a way for us to incentivize employees to be healthier, which ultimately lowers the costs that we pay for insurance, but also helps people to be healthier. We also have a department within HR called Diversity, Equity, Inclusion that focuses on helping to make sure that we have a diverse representation of people who work for a company at all levels. So they're going to make sure that there is a representation of people that mirrors the customers that we serve at senior most levels and junior most levels of the organization. They're also focused on how can we help people to feel that they are part of an inclusive environment within the company. So that's another part of HR that's really focused on a piece of well-being for the company and a piece of building a great culture for the company. So my final little plug on CVS Health. So I just wanted to open it up now to any questions that you might have about careers or about CVS Health.
Go ahead and ask any questions, and I would encourage you to speak up, or I can pass the microphone to you if you have any questions. Okay, we've got one in the front.
What are good ways of finding different jobs in the field? Like if you don't know how to apply things you're studying, how do you find jobs that aren't as advertised as like teacher, lawyer, doctor?
I couldn't quite hear. Can you repeat? Or Mandy, can you repeat the question?
The question was, how do you find jobs that aren't as obvious as teacher, lawyer, doctor? And how do you discern between different careers? Does that sum it up?
Yeah, so that's a great question, because it is, I mean, it seems like there's certain jobs out there that we all know of, right? You can be a lawyer, a teacher, but then how do you find maybe these non-traditional careers that that I've found, or Ted can share a little bit more about as well. So I always tell people to do your kind of like LinkedIn research with people that you know, and interview. The best place I think to start when you're thinking about career is to interview and meet with people that you know and understand what they're doing in their career. And that's a great way just to get a sense of, so if you were to, for example, meet with me, I would share with you all the different jobs within human resources. And if you told me that you were interested in analytics, I would probably tell you like 3 different places in the company where people are doing really interesting work on data analytics. And so I think just meeting people, sharing with them what your interests are, and understanding what they do is a great first step to just start to understand what are these different kind of careers that aren't the traditional careers that we hear about. A lot of it is honestly trial and error. So Ted has a chapter in his book on this, but I know his book by heart. So I can tell you that one of the things that you'll see in the book is like, if you can hone in on an industry that you're interested in, or a certain category of work that you're interested in. So, I mean, for me, it was psychology and sports. If you can start to hone in on those areas, then you can narrow it down to companies that might be aligned to that work. And then you can start to look at the sort of jobs that are available at the company. So that's another way to you know, where you have a little bit more of a set plan, where you start to narrow your focus in on specific areas, and then companies, industries and companies that you might be interested in, and going that route.
Did that answer your question? Anyone else? That's okay.
Her challenges and the dislikes of working in HR.
Hi, Greta. Hi. What are your challenges and your dislikes of working in HR?
What are the challenges and what?
The dislikes of working in HR.
Oh, okay. Challenges and dislikes. Okay. Well, okay. So corporate world. So we're talking a lot about what it's like to be in the corporate world. So there's a lot of, the biggest challenge that I face, and most people in corporate America, is that there is a lot of like processes and rules and systems. So there's a lot of, to get something done is not as simple as if you work for, you know, a smaller company. Working in corporate America, a lot of times for me to accomplish something relatively small, like let's say I want to send out a survey to the people that I work, you know, so I'm an HR representative, so the people that I'm HR for. So if I wanted to send out a survey, a lot of times it would take me getting legal review, me getting review from my manager, me getting other leadership's review of that survey, all just to send out a survey for me to see how are they doing, how's their health and well-being, what do they think about the company, what can I do to improve. So there's a lot of bureaucracy a lot of times in corporate America that slows down the processes and the things that are done. So that's definitely a big dislike of mine. I would love to just be able to make a decision and run with an idea and make it happen. But a lot of times there's a lot of people involved in making decisions, especially in a large company, and certainly in corporate America. So that's probably one of my biggest dislikes. I think another thing that we hear a lot in HR is it can be very political. So corporate America can, you really have to understand the cultural dynamics of a company. So CVS Health is a really old company. And so there's a lot of cultural pieces that make it what it is, but also make it difficult to come and like infiltrate that culture. So really understanding the political, sort of like games and situations that unfold in a corporate world are a challenge for some. I like it. I think it's I approach it like, a sports field or a game and a challenge to overcome. But a lot of people find that that's a barrier to them feeling like they're successful in their role or successful within the company. So you kind of
Sorry. Okay, if there are no other questions, I think what I'd like to do is, since we have Ted with us, just roll right into your presentation. Is that okay with you, Ted? Okay, so.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Okay.
Does everyone, do people need a break? Are we good to keep going?
Keep going. Anyone need a break? Also, feel free to sneak out if you need to.
Yeah, that's true. They can sneak out. The other thing I'll do, and thanks very much for having me. How much time do you want me to spend? Like 45 minutes, 40 minutes?
That sounds good. Yeah.
Okay, sounds great. So I know it is a little later, so we'll try to make this as interactive as possible. As a matter of fact, I won't even use all the slides because I think you have the workbook right in front of you. So first, I want to thank Mandy and Jacqueline, and of course, President Carter, for inviting both of us here. Greta didn't tell you the story I thought she was going to say, which is When she interviewed with our company, she met a lot of the members of my team. And my executive assistant at the time called me and said, she popped into my office and said, watch out, here they come. And 4 people that worked with me walked in and they said, and I'll never forget, we love this woman, Greta. You have to interview her and give her a job. You don't screw it up. That's what they said. And so that's how we got Greta on our team. So that's my one Greta story. I'll also say that for the Career Center, I use my Career Center. I congratulate you for just being here. Many students don't do that. And when I was a freshman, I was looking for an internship and I ended up interviewing for someone who was looking for seniors. And I just said, well, I want to talk to someone and learn about the company. And it was the Pillsbury Company. And after that interview, they gave me an internship. Now that would have never happened if I didn't go to the Career Center. So, you guys are doing great things. All right, let's get to work. So first things first. And Greta always makes fun of me. So whatever writing instrument you have, I always write things down, but I don't know if you will put it in your notes or phone or whatever. I want you to write down what is one word that describes you. One word that describes you. Go ahead and write that down. One word that describes you. And after you do that, I want you to share that word with somebody else. Share each other's words and go ahead and turn to your left, right, front, back, share with someone. What's your word? Okay. All right, it's good. Looks like they're talking. I like that. All right. The next thing I want you to do is, does anyone know each other in the room? Raise your hand if you know someone else in that room. Or are you all strangers? If you know someone else in the room, I want you to go to that person. Still respect that distance or whatever you do. And what I want them to do is I want them to add a word that they would use to describe you. So go ahead, take a minute and do that. So go to someone that knows you, show them your word, have them add another word. Go ahead. No. All right. Okay, good. So now I should have at least 1 or 2 words. And then Mandy, what I'll have you do is I'd love to hear what some of the words are. So if you can go around and be Oprah or Phil Donahue and we can get some of these
That
words.
sounds fun. I always wanted my own talk show.
Hey, you got it right here. All right, go ahead. Just fling that mic around. Let's hear some words here. What have you got?
Hi, I'm Jeff. I put creative and then my friend also put leader.
Thank you. Creative and leader. Let me get some more, please.
I put nice for myself because I'm a nice person. My friend put diligent for me.
Okay.
I put curious for myself and my friend put caring for me.
Curious and caring. Very nice.
Oliver works in our office, so he has to participate.
I had
Go ahead.
determined and hard work.
Determined. What was the second word, Oliver?
Hardworking.
Hardworking. Great. Thank you. Anyone else want to share? Are we good? Yeah, get a couple in the front there. That'd be great.
Okay, so my word is goal-oriented, and my friend's word is skill.
Nice.
Yeah.
Thank you. Goal-oriented, skilled. He's passing. He's like, I'm not doing that. All right. Okay, all right. And you guys can hear me all right, even in the back? Does that work? All right, perfect, excellent. So in my 30 years, what I found, and you're at the point, I really break up my career of advising people in 2 stages. The first stage is helping people identify the right job and fit for them. And the second is how to accelerate your career, right? So that's something Greta and I have in common. She'll pull the best, greatest performance out of you. I'll try to figure out a pattern for accelerating your career. And so when I think about that, there are 3 things that you have to do. Number 1, you have to explore the possibilities. What I find is people think too narrowly about jobs. And so they just have a very narrow focus and therefore not a lot of opportunities. Number 2, which Greta talked about, you have to be able to communicate your value. That's what she meant by the networking. I mean, the interviewing and doing a great job and having 3 great stories. How well can you communicate the value you can offer others? And the third, which will be our focus for today, is to activate your network, right? You're used to studying, you're used to being on your own. Everything is an individual. Well, finding a job and growing your career is a team sport, and you need to work with lots of different people and activate your network. So you're gonna not have a narrow focus anymore. You're not gonna be a poor interviewer anymore, and you're not gonna be a poor networker. That's what we're talking about. All right, so then if I had my slides up, it would have this picture that I had to pay all this money about for me, because I really don't have a good side, but once you pay a photographer enough, they find a good side. So there would be a picture of me trying to look relaxed. And on it, it basically says that, I'm the head of talent development for 300,000, 350,000 people. I've had a diverse career in healthcare, financial services, and consulting. I've had my own business. I'm an avid tennis and squash player, and I love music. When I was your age, I sang in 2 bands to help pay my way through college. I also have a liberal arts degree. I went to Dartmouth College, and I have an MBA from Duke. And why liberal arts is so important, there are a number of reasons. Number 1, you get the love of learning. So as someone who is a hirer of talent, you learn through the liberal arts how to think, how to listen. That's important. The other thing is you learn to think deeply about complex problems that span disciplines, as opposed to just one discipline. That's important. Because what Greta and I need is we need big brains focused on important problems. Nothing against the tech industry. I don't need another app. I need someone to help me figure out how to get everyone vaccinated. I don't need another free game on your phone. I need someone to help me solve food insecurity around the world. I need your big brains focused on big problems. And that's what I get often with someone with a liberal arts degree. All right, so that's why it's great. All right, on my next slide, I'll be talking to you about the benefits of networking. The benefits of networking, what you can do, let's see if I have it here. You can look in the workbook on page 2. What is networking? Networking on page 2, you'll see, is a deliberate activity. You have to do it. People won't just knock on your door and say, hey, I'm here to give you your job. I'm here to give you $1 million. It doesn't work that way. And so it's a deliberate activity. Number 2, you're trying to build relationships and build relationships of trust. We're trying to help each other out. And in good networks, we are just helping each other out. It's just that simple. Who doesn't like to have friends? So just have good friends, network with each other. That is the key. The benefits of networking. This isn't on a slide, but I want to talk to you about the benefits of networking. But before I do that, I used to be a teacher, so I'm not just going to sit here and talk to you guys. What do you think the benefits of networking are? Why do you want to network? Why did you show up tonight? I know it was really for the box dinner, but what else? What do you want to get out of networking? What do you think some of the benefits are?
Hi, I'm Alpha Davis, third year. Recently in my internship, one of the managers connected me with someone who was from my state, because it was virtual. And I guess the benefit that I picked out of that meeting with that person is other opportunities or different paths in the career that I didn't think about. So it's an arts management internship, and I was interning at an arts service organization out of New Jersey. And the person who I networked with, he just started a consulting firm in advocacy. And it was something that I haven't even thought about before, but it was really taking off pretty fast because there was such a need for it. So I guess you learn new things that you didn't think about.
That's great, thank you. So you share opportunities and you see how that first pillar that I was talking about, explore the possibilities, expand, don't think too narrowly. The more people you speak with, the more ideas you're going to get. A game that I often play, this is much more like to make it apparent to high school students, I won't do this to you, is I give them a sheet of paper that has 30 lines on it, and I have them run around the room, and I give prizes to people that can write down the names of 30 companies first. And then they stare at me crazily, and then I say, no, look under the table. Someone made that pen, someone made that book, someone wrote that, made that paper, someone did that light switch, there's something on, it looks like there's a fire alarm, some company did that. So the idea is there are companies everywhere. Write them down, there are jobs everywhere. If you want to make up your own job, what you do is you ask the person this magic question. What do you call the person that? What do you call the person that? Then complete the sentence with the stuff you like to do. And then that's another way you can identify a job. All right. So we got opportunities. Another good thing about networking is it builds camaraderie and friendship, right? That's what I said, you're building relationships. We know that people that network more and have more relationships at work are happier, more productive, and they stay longer. It increases your knowledge and it also increases your reach. Just think about what's the size of Lawrence. I don't know how many students you got. I know Greta knows. Well, how many?
1,500.
All right. So I would say CVS Health is a little bit bigger. So the idea is, do you even know every student on campus? If you don't, that's only 1,500 to 4,000 people, right? Or is the whole school only 1,500?
That's it.
Oh, okay. That's impressive. All right. So the idea is that's the reach. You need networking to understand that. All right. So now let's talk about. I've talked a little bit about the benefits of networking. Let's go in the workbook to page 3. And there I talk about the 4 basic paths to finding an opportunity. So while you're looking for this opportunity, your next opportunity, there's 4 basic paths. Number 1, personal contacts. That is, you call mom, you call dad, you call someone that if you pick up the phone, a cousin, your best friend, they will immediately respond to you. Now, some people confuse that with networking, but I always separate the two. Your personal contacts are your closest friends and the people that you know. And networking usually starts because those people refer you to other people. That's networking. The third is recruiters. So all of us, have recruiting arms, and we're always looking for people. And so those could be corporate recruiters as well as independent recruiters. And then finally, there's social media, the traditional things. You go on LinkedIn, you look at job boards, things like that. But if you look across these four methods, all the research shows that by far networking dwarfs all the other ones. So if you want a good job, start talking to people. You want to create your own job because you like music and sports and biology, and you're like, what the heck? How the heck can I combine that? You're going to have to talk to people and figure out how you combine that. All right, so those are your four basic paths. Now that I've got you to hopefully understand what networking is, the value of it, I want you to go in the workbook on workbooks page 4, the value of networking. Why this is important is because I'm talking about real money. Just because something is invisible doesn't mean it doesn't have great value. As of right now, and I'm sure if I spoke with all your parents, they're shelling out money. It doesn't feel like they're making money yet. But every time that you are learning and progressing and finishing a year and then graduating, we know that that translates into money. So here I want you to imagine someone that has a $50,000 salary. And if they use networking to perform better at their job. In other words, I'm networking with Greta, who's telling me the secrets for working in HR and how to be a good HR employee so that you progress faster, then you're much more likely to get a higher raise. And if you get that higher raise, conservatively 2 to 5%, just by networking, learning how to do your job better, that was really worth $1,000 to $2,500. Number 2, if you use networking to figure out where there's opportunities, right? And to speak with people, you run into people, pick up those pamphlets. Oh, there are no more pamphlets, but as you pick up those job boards or things like that, and you find better opportunities and you get promoted, I'm saying that's worth $3,000 to $5,000 if you're if you earn $50,000. And then finally, this is something people don't tend to see, is if you work well in your company and you get promoted within your company, and we don't have to go outside to find someone else or hire someone to find us candidates, you saved your organization, in this case, between $12,500 and $15,000. So there is real money behind networking. That's what I want you to see. All right. Any questions so far about what networking is, the benefits, or the dollar value of networking? Are we good so far? All right. So hopefully now I've convinced you that networking is beneficial. So now I want to show you how to do it right, because most people do it poorly. So now go in your workbook to page 5, and the concept is the networking quadrant. There are 4 conditions. When I had my own business, I was sitting in Boston with my business advisor, and he said, you know, at the end of the day, we make this too complicated. There are 4 conditions to get hired. People have to know you, they have to like you, they have to know your work, and they have to like your work, right? So that's what we're talking about, those 4 things. I use those 4 components to create this quadrant. So on the horizontal scale is the people scale, the degree to which people know you and like you. On the vertical scale is the work scale, the degree to which people know your work and like your work. By putting that together, I come up with 4 different quadrants. Why that's important is different people will be in different quadrants, and you do different things depending on what quadrant they're in. So in the upper left, the peer networking. This might be a lot of folks here. They may know and like your work, but they don't necessarily know you well. So, you know, maybe someone that's in your major, they might say, oh yeah, I know that person. Beth's really a great musician. So in that sense, they know Beth's work. They don't know anything about her. I don't know what she wants to do. I don't know what she wants to be in an orchestra. She wants to go out her own. She wants to be a teacher. I don't know anything about it. So in that case, and they already know and like your work, right? Your goal is to get people to know you as a person. That means social things. On the top right is the client networks. Now I've written this from a business perspective, but the idea here is they fit all four conditions. They know you and like you, know and like your work. In that case, you don't need to go out to dinner. You don't need to pay for anything. You don't need to give them your resume. If they already know you and like you and know and like your work, just as Greta told you in her presentation, just tell them what you want. That worked for her. It's like, just tell them what you want. Yeah, you know, I like to go to Army. I want to go to the military academy. I don't know, she didn't say Navy because she didn't see it in winter, but that is the key. Oh, she's from Minnesota. Sorry, it doesn't matter. Yes, she thought it was warm. So that's what you want to do there is for clients, just tell them what you want. Social networking on the bottom right. These people love you. I often call this the mother problem, right? Our mothers, often they love us, they speak glowingly about us, they have no idea what we do. When I was in HR, I used to tease, my mother used to go to church and anyone that wanted a job, she handed them my business card and says, oh, my son works in HR, here, just give him a call, he'll give you a job. She just thought it was that easy. I had a lot of strange conversations from people that just got my business card. And then finally, there's traditional networking, right? This is why we hate networking. This is why people are bad at networking. They don't know you, you don't know them. You're at a little mixer or you're meeting someone at a conference and you're trying to pretend like you like each other when you're just like, I can't wait till this is over so I can go be with my friends. So since that is traditional networking, what I tell people is if you're going to bother to spend the time and energy to have someone get to know you, they should be what I call a wow contact. They should be someone that can make your professional dreams come true. They can give you a job, they can do whatever. Does that make sense? Any questions on the quadrants? So if you, so again, I will summarize. So in the peers, that could be your university peers. They could be coworkers. They could be people that know you by reputation. In that case, you want to focus on them getting to know you as a person. Clients, those could be customers, people you've worked with before, places where you've already had internships. They already know and like your work. You want to tell them what you're looking for. Social, family members, friends, social contacts, sports teammates. Those folks already know and like you. You got to tell them what it is you're interested in. And you want to say, you want to tap into their network. And then finally, traditional networking, if you're going to bother to figure out those folks, write down the name of someone that can give you the job that you want. All right. That's enough babbling. Now we're going to go to workbook page 6, and you guys are going to do some work. What we're going to do is we're going to create a power 10. This will get you started. So peer networking, top left. These are people that know and like your work, but don't necessarily know you that well. Again, in the setting of a university, they know your major, they know you're very good at something, but they don't necessarily know exactly what you want to do. I want you to write down their name. I want you to identify 3 people. I want you to write down their name, their company or where they are now, and their title or role. If they're a student, you would just say student. So go ahead, I'll be quiet so you can identify 3 names. Okay, people need more time, or how are we doing? A little bit more time, go ahead. Write down their name, their company, and their role. All right, let's see where we are. Raise your hand if you were able to fill out all three. You got 3 contacts, raise your hand. 3. Okay, 2. All right, we got a couple of 2s. 1. All right. None. Anyone? None? No. All right. Good. Now, this should be a living document for you, so you'll go and do it. If you're only able to come up with 1 or 2 names, think about it afterwards so that you can add it. All right, let's go to the client. These are people know you, like you, know your work, like your work. They know you. These are the professors. These are the people you work with, something like that. Go ahead, come up with 5 names. Okay, let's see, how are we doing? People need more time, or you're good? Good. Got a mix. All right, how many, raise your hand if you're able to come up with 5 names. 5 names? All right, good. All right, good. That means you guys can teach this next time. All right, 4. About 4. 4, that's right. Good. 3. 3. All right, that's usually good. I'm looking for 3, 4, 5. Usually 2. 2. All right, you gotta think about 1. 1. All right. Okay, so again, living document, but that's what you want to do. So we got 5. So far you got, I don't know, between 3 and 8 names. All right, next, social. Think of one person that is in your social circle that you think has a really good network. So you want to tap into them. They know a lot of good people that you'd be interested in. Go ahead and write down the name of that person. All right. Yeah, that's usually a little easier there on the bottom versus the top. And then finally, in that traditional networking, we want one name. And again, this should be a wow name. This is a person. This is like you put down Oprah Winfrey, or you want to meet, I don't know. So I don't know who else you want to meet. You want to meet Greta. So then you write that down because you're like, this is a person that could give me the job that I want. Or they can put me in touch with the person I want. Who's that wow contact? Go ahead and write that down. And Mandy, you can look at some of those wow contacts, make sure they're really writing down some wow contacts. Who are some wow contacts? Show Mandy some wow contacts so she knows, or Jacqueline. There you go.
Yeah, very great. Start making those connections right away.
All right, good, good. All right. Good. All right. So now that we've done all of this, I know we've gone through it quickly, but the idea is you're just starting. How how many names were you able to come up with? If you were able to come up with 7 to 10 names, raise your hand. 7 to 10 names across all of them. We got 7 to 10 names. Let's see what we got there. All right. How about 3 to 5? 3 to 5. All right, couple. All right. Some of you folks will have a little work to do afterwards, but yeah, if you get that. All right, good. Now that you have some names, we now want to figure out how good, how powerful is your network. And in order to do that, we're going to toggle back and forth between the workbook on page 6 and page 7. So what you can do is I'll tell you the questions on page 7. You can still stay on 6. So the first question is, are more than 50% of the names on page 6 affiliated with the university? So the idea is count that up. What percentage are more than 5 names, 5 or more names affiliated with just Lawrence? Okay. All right. So how about a yes or a no? How many are yes? Most of the names are at the university. Oh, anybody there? Okay. A few. And then the rest of you, I assume, is no, right? There's no middle ground on that. All right, great. All right, so what that means is if you do have a lot concentrated just in the university, you may have too great a concentrations. You may want to swap out 1 or 2 names and put in some names with people outside the university. All right, do more than 50% of your names share the same major? So that's what you want to look like. Yeah, focus area. So if you're music, or they all, everyone in there affiliated with music, are they all affiliated with psychology, they all affiliated with whatever your major study is. All right, what do we got? Is that a yes or a no? How many yes? Yes, they're all kind of in my area. Oh yeah, okay. So I imagine nothing no. So that's pretty good. So there you want to make sure that your focus isn't again too narrow. So it's like, expand it a little bit, add some names outside of your major or focus area. How about that mix of gender representation? Is it all mostly one gender, or is it a mix? Check that out. How many of you have a good mix? Good mix. All right, I like that. See, when I do this in a corporate setting, many more hands, fewer hands go up when it comes to the mix. So I like that. How about the next one? What percentage are outside your region or country? So when you look at that, and this would be the region you grew up in. Okay, so look at that. How many are outside your region? All right. Okay, how's that mix going? How many have 3 or 4 outside their country or outside their region? Oh, that's good. Great. All right, more. And why that's important, right, is a few things. Number one, when you think about talent pools, where are you interested in working? If you want to go live and work in California, you're going to have to know some people out there. If you want an international opportunity, you're going to have to know people in a different country. So you can start that now so that you can build those networks. And what percentage are outside of your target industry? Now, for you, what that would mean is if you're interested in music or the arts or sciences, all your contacts are just in that same industry. How many have a nice mix? How many have at least 2 or 3 different industries represented? Okay, good. Oh, I like that. This is a smart group. You're right, Greta. All right, I get it. So that's important. The other reason I always tell folks internally is that's also where you're going to get your ideas. If you want something as plain as dirt in one industry can transform another industry. So if you're looking to add new value, you can do that by speaking with people outside your target industry. All right, let me pause there. So that is your Power 10. What I would say is you would spend, you'll notice if you look at your slide on workbook page 6, if you had 10 names, what I'm saying is you should spend 50% of your time with your clients. You should spend 30% of your time with those peers and having them get to know you better. 10% time with your social network, and only 10% of your time trying to identify that wow contact. And what you do is you meet, when you meet with your peers, meet with your clients, meet with your social network, the last question you always ask them is, hey, do you know the person that's my wow contact? And if not, do you know someone that might know that person? And then that's how you kind of weave your way around and get to know them. All right, let me pause there for questions they have, or Mandy or Jacqueline, your perspective on networking. I want to give you the opportunity.
I have a question. How do you approach someone in your network without sounding like too pushy? Like, hey, I know you, can you give me a job? Like, how do you approach that?
Yeah, don't start out with just the job. What I say is start out with, hey, I want to learn more about you. And so that's actually on the workbook page 10. So if you want to just look there for a second, that answers that question, which is be interested in the person. Say, hey, what type of experiences does a person that has your job, what is it they know how to do? And then what knowledge and skills will make someone great on the job? And then what's the minimum level of education? So it's almost like you're interviewing them. You're not selling them, right? You're not saying, here's my resume and this is what I want. You're trying to establish that relationship. That's what I've tried to say. You want friends, get your friends. People want to work with and hire friends, not someone that's going to grill them. I had someone come in to an interview once, and they got out this list of questions. And my first question for you is, I've looked at your LinkedIn profile and I've looked at some of your videos, and I'd like to know how you determined your strategy. And then after she quizzed me about how I determined my strategy, she then proceeded to ask me about what my likes and dislikes, what my strengths and weaknesses were. Okay, and this is how this woman approached me. Now, try to guess what job she was interviewing for. Sounded like, was she going to be my head of strategy? Was she trying to do that? Was she going to be a peer? This person was going to be a contract part-time aide. So, as you might imagine, she did not get the job. But, just be real with people. Great. Other comments, questions?
Other questions? Otherwise, I'll add a little bit of perspective. So Ted talked about diversifying your network, and we have a system called Connect that has over 1,500 alumni in the system right now, waiting to talk with you. So we absolutely have access to anyone that could be of interest to you in starting this networking journey. All you have to do is log into the system, and it actually loads in some of those templates that Ted is talking about and makes it a little bit easier to get started. I believe that Greta is in the system, as well as many, many others like her. And the Lawrence Network is by far our greatest strength, in my opinion. I've been working with our Lawrence Network for 5 years now. They are the nicest, most helpful people, and they have signed up for the system because they want to hear from you. So please take advantage of them. So networking can be easy. Ask us if you need help. But we absolutely have the resources here that you need to get started. I'm going to turn it over to Jacqueline for just a few.
One additional tip I would add in regards to networking is the best time to be networking with someone is before you're applying for a position with that company. Can anyone imagine why that might be better to be networking before you submit your application? Yeah.
A referral.
A referral, yeah, that's a good reason to be talking to someone in advance. Any other reasons? Yeah, go ahead.
So they recognize your name when you do it.
So they recognize your name when you apply, yeah? Any other reasons?
You have more insight for your application.
Yes, more insight for your application. It's a lot easier to ask someone what they're looking for, how to stand out, you know, what skills you should be developing as you're pursuing this role before you get into the application process. And so even if you were if you're looking for an industry where maybe a lot of the positions are gonna be opening up this winter, this spring, and the fall recruitment season isn't as heavy for you, you can still be in this process of networking right now, and it's the best time to be doing that. And then you don't have the stress and pressure of like needing a job from someone, you can just have that conversation that Ted is describing in a different way.
Awesome. All right, we're in the home stretch. Stick with me for a few more minutes. I'll leave it open to you for some questions. I'll also, shameless self-promotion, this is meant to be a reference guide that you go back to. So I will give you some tips on the book, especially knowing you're busy students. So I don't expect you to be like reading this cover to cover, but I will show you how to use it as a reference guide. So now that you have that Power 10, what I suggest is at least do one a month. That's all I ask. That's the minimum. One networking thing a month. So whether it's at least one alumni a month, one friend or something a month, but just do it. That, and you will thank yourself, because more opportunity opens up. Remember what I told you that Pillsbury I just interviewed, even though it was for seniors, all the internships were and jobs were for graduates. The jobs were for graduates in Minneapolis, where the headquarters was. The internships were also in Minneapolis, where the headquarters was. But after I had my interview and they said, well, it sounds like you're really up for anything, I ended up working at a grain elevator in Huron, Ohio, trading corn, beans, and wheat on the Chicago Board of Trade, and visiting farmers and doing crop surveys. I made really good money. So that's another way, look for those jobs that are off the beaten path. But all of that is through networking. All right. In the workbook on page 8, this is just for your reference. Once you have a job or you have an internship, I have a slight variation on networking on the job. And there, the 4 quadrants are, you need to, I call industry networking, which is you have to understand the industry more, okay? The more you're able to speak the lingo of the business, the more likely you are to be hired. And we can all, any of us that have any knowledge about a particular role, job, major, whatever it is, you can ask a question that is very clear that I know nothing about it. So that's what they're looking to try to catch you. So you're trying to understand that industry. Company networking, whatever company you work for, meet with people all around the company. Social networking, that's the same. And your role networking, you want to talk with people. If you're an intern and you're an intern with CVS Health, you want to speak with other people, students that are interns at another organization. Well, how's it different at United or Walmart or Walgreens? You want to be able to compare because you can learn from each other. All right. And then on the workbook on page 9, once you have that job, go ahead and, just like we did before, fill out some names and make sure you're speaking with someone. Right? On 10, the workbook page 10, you guys teed me up nicely for this one, but the idea is if you don't know what to talk about, these are the things to talk about. If you don't know what to talk about, the most important thing you can do is ask, what are the experiences people have? What do you know how to do? So if I don't know anything about performance psychology, I want to know, what do they do? Do you have a stick and you just beat people? Is that what you do? Do you just do some fancy assessments? You know, is there training? Is there mindfulness stuff? I don't know. What do you do? That's what you have to learn. What skills allow you to be great on the job? Why are you great? Do I have to be good at intuition? Did I have to be an athlete? Does that help? Is that the skill? What is it? And what training is needed? That's what's important. So that's how you do some of the informal networking. All right. So we're at the Q&A part. I do, because Greta mentioned it, I just want to show you on the workbook on pages 11 and 12, those are the links to our internship. So all the links that Greta said to you, you can find those on 11 and 12. And that tells you a little bit about the roles that we have, and it tells you a little bit about the internships. And, you know, if you're going to apply for large organizations, most have learned through research that the most effective people on a job are people that have had internships. And so what that means is we try to fill up to 75% of our seats with people that have interned with us. So if you're interested in a company, you really want to try to get an internship with them because they're trying to do that. All right, last thing before I open it up for questions or you start doing whatever else you want to do. Here's the book. You guys are busy. You're supposed to be, you don't want to tell your parents, oh, I was reading this book. They want to know that you're studying. So what you want to do, the first thing I want you to do is I want you to go to page 197. 197, also known as Appendix B, is a quick reference guide. So the idea here is if you want to, then just go to that page in the book. So if you're preparing for a job interview, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that's like 6 rows down. Hey, I'm about to go on a job interview. Pick this up. Says, hey, it says I should use the STAR method if I'm going on a job interview, and I should turn to page 40. Just that simple. Hey, you know, I want to try to figure out job opportunities. How do I expand that job opportunities like Fleming was talking about? Oh, it says I should use a job exploration summary tool, and I should go to page 14. That's how, for you, where you are at this point in your life, should use this book. And then that way you can read it just in time, do whatever you need to do. And I will plug again and again that, you know, you have very, very talented people in your career center. I know, because I've worked with them and I've spoken with them for a while. So don't make the mistake of just because they're close and just because you know them, that you undervalue their expertise. There's nothing that I have said yet today that they couldn't do and say. But sometimes you hear it better if it comes from out of another mouth or out of a little screen like this. All right, so this is part 1. Tomorrow, I'm going to be talking about strategies, in particular women and people of color, barriers that they face. And we're going to talk about how to go around those barriers. But I will pause and see if there are any questions or things that I can answer for you. And then again, Mandu, Jacqueline, any final comments you'd like to make for this group?
you want to raise your hand, I will bring the mic over to you to ask your question. Got the head of talent development for a Fortune 500 company. It's not often to ask a question, so I'm going to sit here when people start asking. Okay, got one here.
We got one. Hey, when I was in school, the kegs didn't start till 10 o'clock, so hey, we got time.
Hey, this, Malcolm again, thank you again, and also thank you, Greta, for this, presentation today. And my question is to you, what was your network that allowed you to get to where you are now at CVS, and like how did you use your network that you activated to get to your current position?
Greta, you want to go first? You do have to come off mute though. There you go.
Yeah, no, that's a good question. So I did not get this wisdom imparted on me until I was at CVS Health. So but once I got to know Ted and understood the importance of my network, I actually used this networking skill to move around the organization. So once I started working in HR, I got to know people who were doing jobs that I might be interested in, who were at like a level or two above me within the organization. And I made sure that I was doing meaningful work with them, that I was scheduling meetings with them maybe once every 4 or 5 months. And one of those people who I did that with actually got me a promotion within CVS Health. And so that was how I was able to move from the first role I had at CVS Health to the second role that I had. And then the same thing happened. So these were people who weren't doing the same job as me, who really I didn't have a lot of reason to interact with. We weren't on the same committees. We weren't working together every day or every week. They were just people that had jobs that I thought I might be interested down the road, and that I knew were that cared about people and wanted to develop people. And so I just made sure to understand exactly what Ted said, to make sure I understand what were they interested in, what were they passionate about, what was their career all about, and that I shared with them things about myself along the way. And then as opportunities came up, it was easy then to come back around and say, hey, by the way, I saw this opportunity that I'm interested in pursuing. And they already knew me. They already knew my work and they already liked me. And so it was easy to then make that move to like, would you consider me for this role? Which I know is the hard part for you all, because you all said, oh, you don't want to go network with somebody and say, can you give me a job? Because really you have to know them first, and you have to build that relationship first, and then it's easier to come back and ask for the job. Ted?
That's great. The only thing that I would add to that, since it's come up a couple of times, is let's say you want to talk to Greta and you want her to hire you. Instead of networking with her first and coming across like I'm not sure what I want to do, instead find out who are 2 or 3 people that work with Greta, network with them first, and then work your way up. Then you'll have more stuff. I see hands up in the back, so okay, I think they're going to drop some knowledge on us. Go ahead. Oh, our audio went out. Okay. All right. Let me know when you're back.
I don't know. That's okay. It may be okay there.
Can you hear us now?
And I might just say hold this close. Okay.
So can we actually like give like a big wave and thank you to all of them? This is a bummer. Can we like just take him off the audio or off the mic and we can at least